Hey y'all. So we're looking at this gas station, I know, and you're probably wondering why. I'm gonna make a point. So I wanted to do a little history rant um, while I was driving around earlier. So I had grabbed these pictures really quick. This is the Standard Oil Phillips station that's in the Virginia Highland area. There are only 16 Standard Oil Phillips stations that still exist in America. And Standard Oil was started in 1877 by John D. Rockefeller. And this was the Gilded Age. This is when you could truly be a baron. You could be the lord of an industry. And like today with the Googles and the Metas, um, John D. Rockefeller really had a strong control over the market. He owned 90% of the oil industry. That means that 9 times out of 10, if you needed an oil product, you had to get it somehow, some way through the hands of John D. Rockefeller. Um, I want you to really pay attention to the color scheme of this Phillips station because it's going to tie into the point. But what we learned from the Gilded Age is that, especially as America was an emerging market and we were going from an agrarian society to an urban one, by 1920, majority of the American population lived in a city. So we were shifting from farm-based people to market-based people. And we realized from the disparities of having people that had so much, the haves having so much, and the have-nots having so little, that we needed to put mechanisms in place to make sure that the market was fair and that the market was in a position where people could actually thrive. So, because we learned those lessons in 1911, after the progressive era began and we started passing progressive policies, the Supreme Court ruled against Standard Oil. And the Supreme Court said that Standard Oil was in violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. And they broke Standard Oil up into 34 separate divisions. So, looking at the graphic here, now, if you remember, I told you to pay attention to that color scheme because, as you can see, the companies such as Chevron, which we know and we are familiar with, we see them every day. You can see how they're still related to that Standard Oil, that parent company. But what you really should pay attention to in this graphic is how we've allowed for those 6 divisions that are shown here to be whittled down to just 3. We've allowed for ourselves to be divorced from the lessons that we learned in history. And though it's not as much represented in the oil industry today, it can arguably be represented in the tech industry and in industries that revolve around tech. And so it shows us that we've lost sight of how we want our market to operate, how we want our economy to operate, because it's the part of politics. It's the part of the political economy that we interact with every day. It's the policies and laws that are set by prices that dictate what you are going to be able to do today and what you aren't. But back to the point. So, looking at this image here, you see 2 gas stations, which are clearly the offspring of Standard Oil. Those 2 gas stations, the Amoco and the Chevron, are 2 separate companies. They look the same, but they are competing. And though you can't see both of the prices, it does say when you are able to see it that the Chevron is charging $388 and the Amoco is charging $389. That price is important because of the lessons that we learned, and that competition allows for those fill-ups to be more affordable in comparison to what they could have been. Had America developed differently, had Standard Oil not been broken down, there would have likely been one fill-up station put there, and they would have been able to engage in what I call because I can trading. And they would have been able to sell their gas because if you look past those gas stations, you'll see that there's an exit that takes you on to 85. And right behind the Amoco gas station, that's a new apartment building called the Edley. They would have been able to say, for multiple reasons, that they could charge a premium on that gas for convenience, for preference, for need. They could have said a multitude of things, and there would have been economists and politicians that would have doubled down with them as to why they were allowed to gouge the price at that one Phillips station. But because there can be two there, and they have to compete with each other, they can't engage in the prices of the next gas station that I'm going to show you. So now looking at that shell and that additional 40 cent that they're charging, which for 5 gallons means an additional $2, they can engage in the because I can, because what you can't see is that the highway blocks my neighborhood. You can't see that my apartment complex is right there, or that there's a post office, or that GDOT has a parking area, or that there's an industrial park behind the gas station where the Quick Creek plant is, and where there's a brewery and other bars. There's a church back there, I believe. There's a lot of people that come in and out of the vicinity of that Shell gas station who are going to get on the highway and get off the highway right there. And they're not even going to know that that competition is around the corner and they're charging 40 cents less. And because of convenience, necessity, or for commercial reasons, they're going to stop there and they're going to patronize those people. Now, to go back to Standard Oil, there were a lot of negative externalities that came with Standard Oil having that much power. There were environmental effects, there were health effects, just detrimental things to human life in general from Standard Oil having all of that power. And so when we're looking at these things that are happening in today's world, when we're looking at Flock, or we're looking at Meta, or we're looking at Google, or we're looking at any of the new techno barons, we have the playbook to correct these. So as we're talking about these buzz policies with the political actors who are going to go on to be the new politicians or the current politicians, we have to be talking to them about the less beautiful policies. We have to talk to them about antitrust. We need to talk to them about trust busting. We have to talk to them about what we believe is actually fit to remain in the market and what needs to be done communally. This should lend you hope because we lived in such similar times that we don't need to rewrite the playbook to get ourselves and our society back on a better footing. We are already a market people. We had the opportunity to remain an agrarian and communal people, but we didn't. We evolved and we became commercial. Every sect of America went commercial. Even when you look at the end of slavery, you go through Reconstruction and through Jim Crow, Black people, we got very commercialized after that. Even Jefferson Long, the first Black congressperson from the state of Georgia, when he was when he was forced out of Congress, he went back to, I believe he owned a tailor shop and I believe he owned a barber shop. He went back to his commercial enterprises in Macon. He remained politically active, but he went back to his enterprises. That's who we are. And at the end of the day, people are going to talk to you about socialism and capitalism and all of those good things. At the end of the day, we are a market based people. And the biggest factor in any American's life is going to be the market and the prices that you face every day. And the beauty is that we know how to impose the policies necessary to ensure that we get the fairest price, no matter what our circumstance is. And I got all of that from looking at a gas station. So y'all clearly know how my